Hey everybody, it's Evan from Work the Woods, back at here getting ready to do the bow setup for you guys. What I'm going to be doing is doing my budget bow challenge bow setup today. It's this Martin riser thing. I think it was some kind of like mossy oak eliminator or something like that, what I bought from Walmart. So what I'm going to be doing today is putting rest on it, a sight, stabilizer, and also the quiver. I've already got the peep sight installed on this bow, so I'm not going to be doing that, as well as a D-loop. The thing with this bow right here, it's super easy to work on as far as bows are concerned, because these screws right here for the limbs, actually you loosen that up on both ends, and it takes this block right here and loosens all the tension on these limbs. You can put new strings and cables on, you can put your peep sight in, you can actually break this bow completely down and take the limbs out. That's how easy this bow is. The one thing that this bow does not have that really I need to get for it is a cable stop for right here, because this bow has quite a bit of a buzz to it when it shoots. But it's a budget bow, challenge bow. But what we're here today is to show you guys how to do an initial setup on a bow if you've never done one before. Once again, this is geared towards beginners, so it's a pretty straightforward process, and I'll even go into kind of getting your center shot set as well for your bow just by eyeing it. I don't have any fancy equipment or anything like that around my house as far as tuning my bows, and generally they come out pretty well, and I shoot really well with them. So just show you how to do it by eye, and then you can kind of walk it in from there, but you can get it really close by eye. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into setting this up. So alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the rest. This is not the rest, I believe. Yeah, this is the rest that came with this bow. It's pretty much a carbon copy of a Bowtech Octane rest or hostage rest. I think I had one right here. So, it might actually be one, I don't know. But I know that this bow had a cheap rest on it. This might actually be one, it just doesn't say it. But they're identical, and a lot of places copy these. I will tell you right out the gate, this is an extremely hard rest to get tuned properly. There is literally no adjustments for this thing. They're really no good as far as adjusting and trying to get it right. But if you're on a budget, you use what you got, right? So will they work? Yes. Are they not as tunable as, say, a drop away or some of these other things, or even some of the other higher end full capture rests like the Whisker biscuits? No. They're literally, you get an elevation and a windage, and there's not much else you can really do with it. And it's kind of a pain. It's crude, but it does work. So right here is you're gonna be installing right here your rest. So this is a right-handed bow, so your rest is actually going to screw in on the right-hand side of your bow, and your rest will actually be facing the shelf, which is on the left-hand side of your bow. So it's usually pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I know there's a lot of people who have preferences on how they like to set up their bows and everything. I like having my rest, if I can manage it, I like having my rest as close to the shelf as I can. I don't like having my rest back further. It's not really, I don't really care for it that way. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and tighten that down, just, you know, not super tight, but just enough to where I can have a little tension on it and I can still move it. Because what I'm going to do, that's going to factor into how I'm going to adjust it here shortly. So now that I got that on there, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this center shot. So if you know what center shot is, or if you don't, what that means is you're actually getting the arrow to sit in the middle of your riser, and it's basically lined up with your string. So it's not what we were talking about earlier, you know, like if you had your arrow sit, your rest sitting out like this, like the gentleman did that Corey knew, you know, that's obviously not shooting properly. So, you know, what we want to do is take a look at that arrow. You know, we can eye it and see where it's at. So on this particular bow, or this rest, this is one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of these octanes. I'm going to actually go ahead and flip this around because they're hard to get to on these rests. So what I'm going to do before we start messing around is I'm going to go ahead and flip this mounting bracket. I'm going to flip it around so the actual screw is on the bottom and it's a lot easier to get to. You know, when it comes to all these little pieces of equipment that you're going to be running around with and doing, you know, make it easier for yourself in the long run before you know, you sit there and curse up a storm, because it can get frustrating having to make adjustments when you're sighting in a bow and you constantly got to move things around. So, you know, before you even get it set up on the bow, go ahead and get it, you know, set to where it's good for you to, you know, have easy access. So, no big deal though, pretty simple. All right, so I'm just going to give that a little bit of a snug. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start adjusting for my height and elevation. So what you want to do, or sorry, my height of the arrow, your elevation adjustment, is you want to make sure your arrow's straight, not at a downward angle or too far up, as level as you can find it. You know, most bow shops are going to do this in a vise, and they have the, you know, levels that they can put on the arrow and everything like that. I don't have that here. So this is why I said, you know, I do everything by eye and it comes out fairly good. So, you know, with that being said, if you look at your risers, a lot of times, you know, you can tell whether or not you're going to be, you know, level for the most part. Some risers actually have lines in the middle for center shot. Other risers have an area up here on the shelf that you can line it up with the riser and the shelf, and you can see how far, you know, where it's at and everything. So there's definitely tricks that you can learn to make sure that these things are eyed properly. And you can always come back to it and do some minor adjustments. So right now I'm going to adjust for center shot. So what I'm going to actually do is throw it way off, so I can show you guys kind of what you would be looking at if you, let's say you got something from a big box store, like I said, earlier. You see how angled that is? Now you can kind of see it a little bit more. It's really angled. So what you want to do is you're going to want to bring this over, right? A little tough on these octanes sometimes. They don't like to. So that is fairly close to being that's pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that one in. All right. So now that we got, and this bow, was a little weird with how it is, but that's where the center shot is. But it's close. So what we're trying to do, right, is get everything close. Next thing we're going to do is elevation. So what we want to do, remember, is we don't want to have that downward angle. So if you can look at these two screws here, you can see it's a downward angle, correct? It's not where you want that bow. That arrow is not going to shoot properly. So what you want to do is bring your arrow up. In this case, sometimes you have to bring it down depending on where it came from the factory. So what we're going to do is bring it up a little bit. Right about it's pretty close right there. So I'm going to try to hold it in place. Let me see where it's at. Yeah, so that looks all right there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, if you do have one of these hostage rests, don't overly tighten this inside part. If it's your bow that you first got has one of these things on there, because you can strip it out. It's just plastic. So be careful how tight you do put that. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten this last screw down here. Nice and snug, not super tight, but nice and snug so it's not going to come out. So now we've got our arrow installed. Our rest is installed, and pretty close to center shot, pretty close to level. And from here you can do minor adjustments, something like paper tuning or anything like that, which we can get into later. But this will get you shooting almost right off the bat. You'll be shooting and hitting your target. And all you have to do is dial it in from there. So, all right. So now what we're going to do, now that we got our rest put in, we are going to go ahead and install the sight. Now this is the sight that came with this bow, and I know I'm doing the budget bow challenge, but I'm not going to use this sight. It's actually very crude, and I don't really care for it too much. But is it usable? Yes, absolutely. It will do the job, but because, like I said, I'm a budget-minded person, I wait till Walmart put things on super clearance, and I got this Joker 4-pin here with a light this year for I think this was like $7. I got it for $7, I believe, $5 or $7. So fairly comfortable to say that that fits well within my budget bow. So you know, those deals are had all the time if you're willing to wait for them. So, and another thing that I got, which I wanted to show you, which I did put on this bow, is these True Glow Centra Pro Series peeps. It's a 3/16 inch peep. I actually got these for pretty cheap. I think they were like $2 a piece. So, and I bought a few of them from Walmart, once again clearance. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna open this bad boy up. We're gonna plop it on here. I'm gonna show you how to put that on. And you know, kind of keep going and getting this budget bow set up. Almost there. All right. Toss it off to the side. All right, so like I said, we're gonna get this Joker 4 pin set up on here. Now, one thing that I'm going to show you guys, keep in mind everybody, this is geared towards beginners. So, you know, don't go throwing hate mail at me for this, but these holes here with the bevel cut, you know, bevel drill areas, these holes are for mounting your sight to the actual bow. So these two screw areas, that's where you're going to mount your bow. You can use either sets. Some sights have multiple ones, so you can bring them out further or bring them in closer. These two rear screw holes are going to be for mounting your quiver bracket too. So don't try to mount your screws through those two holes, because that's not what they're there for. These holes here are the ones that you need with the little bevel cutout. That's what you need to connect to your actual riser. Now, with this sight, it is reversible. The only thing that you're going to have, if you do reverse it, you know, for a left-handed shooter, you can take the bracket off and flip it, and it's beveled on both sides, and so right and left, and it's also you know, tapped all the way through for the screws. So you can flip it. If you're a left-handed shooter, you can flip it and use it. The only thing with that is your level, your little bubble level, is going to be flipped. It's going to be inverted. I believe those are held in by like some glue or maybe some tape, so you possibly can pop it out, because there is a little side, you know, area here on the you know, if you flip it, it would be essentially the bottom. It's on the top for me. There is an area for it to be put there. This sight does come with a light, and this is Allen adjusted screws, or Allen adjusted pins. So what that means is you got to loosen this Allen screw and adjust your pins up and down manually. But it's still pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy put on, and we'll keep moving forward with this little budget build. Need the next step up. So like I was saying, you know, when it, yeah, that's the only thing I don't like about this bow. Well, not the only thing, but as I was saying, when it comes down to it, you can find some pretty good deals out there, whether it be Walmart or, you know, Dick's or whoever. Even Lancaster Archery will have some really good deals out there. You can find some really good deals on equipment like this. You know, just your bare essentials, sights, rests. You know, there it goes again. That's funny. It's kind of a bad design, but you know, it's what you got. Now, as far as this bow, I probably would never have bought it because I have quite a few bows, as you can see, but this was my budget bow challenge, so I went ahead and got it. You know, when it comes down to your budget bows, it doesn't mean that, you know, you got to go buy a brand new one, but I chose to. I could have gotten a used bow that was a lot better than this, but, you know, some people want that warranty and whatnot. So once you put those 2 screws in, your sight is essentially mounted, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to go ahead and mount our quiver bracket now, since we're already here. This again was Walmart, but I don't think this one was on sale. This was like $20 quiver, $25 quiver. So this one has just a small little plastic bracket. You know, it's not a super high-end quiver. 4-arrow, trophy ridge. You know, little foam inserts in there. But it works, and you know, it does exactly what you need it to do. And it'll get you out there and hold your arrows. And I know some people be like, 4 arrows, are you kidding me? I need more. You need more practice. But you know, it's you don't need a ton of arrows in your quiver. You know, I have pretty much all my bows have like a 5-arrow quiver. And yeah, I carry arrows, 5 arrows in there, but you know, it's rare to ever get more than 1 shot off at a deer. So although it has happened for me, I've been fortunate in a couple instances where I have shot 2 deer in one sitting, almost back to back. So it's kind of crazy. But anyway, so this is pretty much all that there is to it. Just about, if you use a quiver, a sight-mounted quiver, what that means is it's sighted, you know, it's mounted to your actual sight. It's pretty much everyone on the market is going to be 2 screws. It's going to be 2 screws. It's super easy. So there are 2-piece quivers out there. This bow does not really accept a 2-piece quiver. Most bows have to be, most of them are, they're, you know, formed into the riser, cut out into the riser. So they, we'll go ahead and there we go. That one's a little tough, but it works. But you know, we're going to focus on the single point here, the regular full body quivers, because that's pretty much all I ever use. I personally hunt in the Northeast and some other places, and I tree stand hunt, so I take my quiver off my bow. I know a lot of the guys out west and things like that, they do spot stock. They keep those on their bows because, you know, obviously it's kind of hard for them to have a quiver somewhere and get access to their arrows, unless of course they're wearing a hip quiver. But most of those guys tend to leave their quivers on there. And, you know, it's to each his own. I personally don't like shooting with my quiver on. I have done it, but I'm not a big fan of it. But it's doable, and plenty of guys do it. So, you know, that'd be something that'd be up to you. All right, so essentially now, last thing to do is to throw on the stabilizer. Now, this is more of a, isn't really much of a stabilizer. This is more of a dampening stabilizer. It's really not going to give you a lot of stability. It's about a 6-inch stabilizer. It doesn't weigh much of anything, but it's all rubber. So it's going to give you a little bit more of the dampening effect than it is stabilizing. Now the difference between that is a stabilizer usually will have weights built into it that you can take off or remove or whatever. And with those you can, you know, minimize your ability to torque your bow, and it helps stabilize you better. This particular one is not going to do that, but it's going to eat up some of the dampening, you know, some of the vibration that you're going to feel. So with that being said, that budget bow is essentially together. Now what we were talking about just now, this is a base stinger. This is an actual stabilizer. I think this is the 6-inch one, right? Because I have the 8-inch one right here. So this has weights built into the end, and also limb saver dampening material. And this is a carbon fiber rod. And you know, you just go ahead and put that on your bow. You can remove some of the weights if you want, or you can get more put on. Whatever, it's up to you. It's your choice. But that is an actual stabilizer versus more of a dampener. So you can kind of see about the same size, but this one has weight, so it's going to help you keep from torquing your bow, and keep you a little bit more stable in some winds and things like that. Great, but you're looking at like $50-$60 for this versus about $14 for that. So, you know, definitely they are helpful, but almost none of my bows have these. Almost all my bows have pretty inexpensive stabilizers or dampeners. So, and I've been using them that way for quite a long time. Where these would really come into play is for longer distance shots. That's probably where they're going to shine more. If you're a short distance shooter, you know, your shots are 20-30 yards at the most, $14. It'll help you all day long. Eat up some of the vibration and you'll be good to go. So with that being said, that's going to conclude the setup portion. The next thing that we're going to get into, actually, let me backtrack. There's one more thing I want to go over here. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I apologize, y'all. Your jaw length. So your jaw length is going to be measured by your wingspan. So this is probably going to be the easiest thing for you to do, but you also you're going to need a partner to do it, unless you're really good at holding a tape measure and fingertip to fingertip. So your jaw length, you measure fingertip to fingertip. So Corey's going to come in here, and so basically your fingertip to fingertip, and you figure out whatever number you come up with. So then what you do is you divide that by 2.5, and that's going to give you your jaw length. Now on this particular bow, it has rotating modules with just the numbers there telling you what draw length or what inch draw it is. You would take that screw out, rotate the module, put it to the number that is closest to your draw length. On this bow, it doesn't have half-inch increments. because, like I said, it is a cheap bow, so you're not going to have half-inch increments. But on other bows, you're going to have, 21 and a half to 22, 22 and a half, 23, 23 and a half, and so on. And that's what you would set your draw lengths to. Now, with that being said, if you are new to this sport here, not all bows can be adjusted by you. You might have to take it to a bow shop, like this overdrive right here. Has rotating module, but it has to be pressed in order to change my draw length. And then it has to be timed. And that's something that we can get into later. But, once you get into a bow that has to be pressed, you're definitely going to want to take it to a shop. Because pressing your bow is not really a good step for a beginner to start with. So, read through your owner's manual, talk to your pro shop, and like I said earlier in my first video, those pro shops should be hooking you up and setting you up with your bow anyway. So you shouldn't really have to mess around with your draw length. But if you're the want to do it at home guy, make sure that you're able to change your draw length at home. So, all right. So now the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to do a little shooting and sighting this bow in. And getting it ready to hunt this year. And with that being said, I'm Evan from Work the Woods, and it was fun hanging out with you, and we'll see you next time.
Luminox are brighter, more durable, and with replaceable batteries, the longest lasting compound and crossbow lighted nocks on the market, period. When your moment of truth comes, rely on the only lighted nock trusted by the best. Luminox. Light 'em up at luminox.com.
It's here, the most innovative field dressing kit ever, developed by Raptor Razor. Its huge, ergonomically designed hook on the big game skinner cuts quick with precision. The Mako cuts through the toughest of places, saves you time in the field. Each kit comes with multiple blades, completely interchangeable. It's like no other knife made. For the full line of accessories, go to our website, www.raptorrazor.com. That's raptorrazor.com.